Not every twist will have a lasting impact.
When will they take the bandages off?
But the ones that do are often the most important.
I want to be like everybody.
This is one of those twists.
That hasn't the right to make ugliness a crime.
This is something that you need to remember.
This time, the state does provide for the extermination of undesirables.
Because this twist has the power to change the way you see the world.
Why shouldn't people be allowed to be different? Why?
Doctor.
So let all 100,000 of us go and experience the lesson that is waiting to be learned by patient 307 in Eye of the Beholder. The episode opens with a woman lying in a hospital bed with her head completely wrapped in bandages, as a nurse enters into the dark room and tells the patient that it is time for her sleeping medication. But patient 307 isn't surprised that she needs sleeping meds, she's just surprised that it's now nighttime. And even asks the nurse, how was the day? Was it a beautiful day? Was it warm? Was the sun out? Telling us immediately that she has been in these bandages for so long that the days and nights are beginning to run together. And the nurse just kind of laughs this question off because it's clear that this is not the first time patient 307 has asked about the day. And she even tells the nurse that after all of this time, she's beginning to miss just looking at the clouds.
If you stare at them long enough, they become things, you know what I mean?
People, ships, anything you can imagine. And it's here that the nurse has to touch the patient's shoulder to even let her know where she is. And I just love how quickly she grabs onto her hand, telling us that not only does she miss being outside, but she's also missing basic human contact. It's just before taking her temperature that the patient asks one last, very important question.
When will they take the bandages off?
To this, the nurse pulls away before responding, and then grabbing her hands again, she tells her that it will be when they decide if they can fix her face or not. But patient 307 knows just how bad her face is and repeats this a few times, causing the nurse to try to comfort her just a little bit by saying she's seen worse. But patient 307 knows just how bad it is, and has known this for as long as she can remember, with even her very first memory being of
There's another little child screaming when she looked at me.
Her entire life, she's never wanted to be even considered beautiful, she has just wanted to be considered normal, to no longer have people look at her in disgust, and no longer have children screaming when they see her. So again, she asks the nurse, when will these bandages come off so she can see her new face and see if she will achieve her dream of just being normal. And the nurse tells her that it could be tomorrow, it could be the day after, but after all of this time, what difference does it really make with needing to wait a little longer? And after leaving, the nurse reports back to the nurse's station and tells Dr. Bernardi that patient 307 is doing just fine, there's no temperature change, and she's now resting comfortably. And it's at hearing about patient 307 that the other nurse asks her if she's ever seen her face.
If it were mine, I'd bury myself in a grave someplace.
And that she's also just amazed at how badly some people want to live despite how awful they look. It's as she offers the other nurse a cigarette that we see a shadow walking up behind them on the wall as Rod Serling steps out and gives his opening monologue.
Suspended in time and space for a moment.
Our introduction to Miss Janet Tyler, who lives in a private world of darkness, a universe of whose size is that of the bandages that cover her face.
In a moment, we'll go back into this room.
And also in a moment, we're going to take a look underneath those bandages and keeping in mind that we are not to be surprised by what we see, because this is not just a hospital.
And this patient 307 is not just a woman.
This is the Twilight Zone.
And Miss Janet Tyler, with you, is about to enter it.
Entering back into the Twilight Zone, we find the nurse and Dr. Bernardi in room 307 discussing Janet's condition. And we also find out that they've been keeping her sedated throughout the nights. But without her able to tell nights and days apart, I'm sure that this is just another part of her continued existence within the hospital and within these bandages. It's here that Dr. Bernardi walks around to have a small chat with Janet, even telling her that it was hot today, And that also,
We'll have those bandages off you very soon.
because he just assumes that she must be uncomfortable underneath all of those bandages. But Janet makes it very clear that she's been in them so long, they're just like a part of her now. After all, this is her 9th visit to the hospital to have something done about her face.
It is the 9th.
The 11th.
Even the doctor is shocked at this news as he pulls his hands away, and Janet begins to recollect just how much of her life has been spent within these bandages, within this cave that is lined with gauze that has now become her safe place, one of the very few places that she can have privacy from the rest of the world. And it's from within this cave that she has begun to believe that even this treatment is hopeless. Hearing this, Dr. Bernardi is honest with her, as he says that none of the other treatments have made any difference at all, so it's hard to say if this time will be the time. But they are still hopeful for this treatment, even though they won't know how well it's worked until those bandages come off. Because the main issue that they've had all this time is that they've been unable to do any plastic surgery. So instead, they've had to use injections and medications and many other techniques, but all of them to no avail up until this point. And this will make the final attempt that they have at trying to fix her face, because
we're not permitted to do any more after 11.
With Janet's doubts, the doctor reminds her that she needs to stay positive, because none of them know if it's worked or not. It's here, though, that Janet asks the doctor that if it hasn't worked, what will be next for her?
Well, there are alternatives.
Without going into any detail, Janet understands and says that she knows. And the doctor says they both know why these rules are in place, and that each person is at least given the chance to fit in with society. But she needs to start thinking about all of the time and all of the money that she has spent trying to achieve her dream. All of it being wasted up to this point to possibly make her look
like what, doctor?
Normal. The way that she has always hoped for and still hopes for now. And it's this reason that she begins to beg the doctor to just let her go outside and sit in the garden, so she can finally get some fresh air and just smell the flowers to hopefully feel normal for just a moment. Out there in the night, out there in the dark, she could just be another part of the world, not bothering anybody and able to forget the grotesque woman that she is. Because out there, nobody could see her, and she might just be able to feel normal for just a little bit.
I want to be like everybody.
And as she's pleading with the doctor, she's clinging to him, and it's clear that he shares in her pain as he holds her back. And he tells her that she isn't alone. There are many people that look the way she does. And one of those alternatives is for her to move to where they are, a place where her kind has been congregated.
Congregated? You mean segregated?
Just the mention of this sends her over the edge. I mean, to even suggest the thought that she needs to go live with a bunch of freaks. But Dr. Bernardi cuts her off and says that the state is sympathetic towards her condition, and that should be clear by just how much time she has spent in this hospital. But she needs to understand that with the way she is, with the way she looks, there is no possible way that she could ever live among normal people. But she could just wear a mask or keep her bandages on. She wouldn't bother anybody. She could just get a job and just live her life. It isn't her fault that she was born to look like this. And how is it that the state is able to even make such rules? Who are these people anyway? Do they think that they're God? Because the state is not God.
That hasn't the right to make ugliness a crime.
With her outburst at her convoluted situation that she finds herself trapped in, she throws the blankets back and runs for the window. With the doctor yelling for her to come back and just to calm down, she throws it open and is finally able to smell the fresh air and smell the flowers. And it's just as the doctor makes it to her and turns around, she begins to beg for these bandages to come off, to pull her out of this prison that she is locked in, to
Take it off me! Take it off me!
Her cries are heard throughout the hospital as some more nurses rush in to restrain her and put her back in her bed. And it's here that finally Dr. Bernardi gives in and says, "We'll take the bandages off." Later in Dr. Bernardi's office, it's clear to us and to the nurse that just entered the room that patient 307 has really been weighing on his mind. And he tells her that he tries his hardest not to get emotionally attached to his patients, but when you've done everything that you can, sometimes all that is left is for you to cross your fingers.
And you hope for a miracle.
Because sometimes they do happen, and it's just often enough to not make you feel dumb for hoping for one. The nurse, though, tells him that he's been thinking about patient 307 too much, and it's clearly starting to affect him. With a case like this, it might just be best for him to separate himself from it and from the patient altogether. But he's seen her face now, and not just the twisted lump of flesh over her misshapen skull, but her real face.
It's a good face. It's a human face.
It's here that the nurse admits that it's easier for her to think of patient 307 as human as long as her face is wrapped up in those bandages. But why? Why is it this way? Why do they feel like this? And it's here that he asks the very important question of what is the difference between something that is beautiful and something that is repulsive? Is their idea only skin deep, or is it something much less than that?
Why shouldn't people be allowed to be different? Why?
Doctor.
As quickly as she can, the nurse has to quiet him down because these things that he is saying so loudly are treason. And she even blames this case for messing with his values, to which Dr. Bernardi reluctantly agrees. And he tells her that just as soon as those bandages come off, everything will be able to go back to normal, just as soon as he knows the fate of 307. Again at the nurse's station, a conversation is interrupted by a special TV broadcast that drops from the ceiling. A broadcast from their leader, who stands at a distance behind a podium lined with flags behind him to show just how far his reach is over their unified society.
I shall talk to you about glorious conformity.
Again, back in room 307, they're preparing to take off Janet's bandages, or patient 307's bandages, depending on what lies underneath. But before they start, Dr. Bernardi reminds her she has to stay calm during the entire process. At no point can she throw a tantrum or become irate if the results are not what she hoped for. And after agreeing with the doctor, he then lays out the way that this process will work. They will slowly unwrap her as to not try to interfere with any healing that still needs to be done. But what stands out while he's saying this is that we see the nurse that is holding the scissors that are going to help with the unwrapping process. But we also see somebody with a sedative prepared to go, just in case. And the doctor tells her that during this whole unwrapping, she needs to make sure to keep her eyes open and to just describe anything that she sees, whether it's shapes or shades or colors, because the injections just might have had an effect on her vision. Agreeing with this, Dr. Bernardi finally starts to cut Janet out of this prison, and after the first layer, he asks her if she can see any light.
Oh, just a little. It looks gray.
Continuing this process, they methodically unwrap her, stopping after each layer to let her eyes adjust to the new things that she's now able to see, even moving her head to look directly at one of the lights so she can fully notice the difference. And it's just before taking off the final layer that Dr. Bernardi asks her again what she can see.
I can just see you.
It's just his outline, but he is there and is so close. And after all of this time, it's finally almost over, and the doctor asks her if she would like a mirror so she could finally see herself and know her fate within this unified society. But she refuses, and the doctor, with a level of nervousness in his voice, tells her one last time that if the treatments worked, then great, but if they haven't, she can still live out a life to its fullest.
Among people of your own kind.
Then he tells her that in just a moment they'll know the results, and they'll either be able to release her or... But before he can finish his statement, Janet speaks up, and she asks him if she is still ugly after all of this, if there is another alternative, if she is still so hideous that she can no longer live within normal society. Is it possible for her to be put away?
Ms. Tyler, the state does provide for the extermination of undesirables.
But he's also pretty certain that all of the hurdles they would have to go through to do such a thing are beyond what would be allowed for her. The only real option that she has, if the treatments have failed, is for her to be moved to a community of others that are like her, others that share her same disability. And so he wishes her good luck and tells her to keep her eyes open as he places his hand on her shoulder along with another nurse, hoping for the best. As the final layer is pulled away, we see more and more from Janet's perspective of the room coming into view. But we also see others in the room standing back in the shadows as they're watching to see who is underneath those bandages. Whether it's Miss Janet Tyler or still patient 307. And the second that those bandages fall from her face, they cover their own as they're in shock because there's
no change. No change at all.
She looks up without fully grasping what the doctor just said, as it then hits her that she is still horribly ugly. She then screams and tries to make a run for it, but the rest of them are too quick and she's not able to make it very far as Dr. Bernardi turns around and tells the anesthetist to give her the sedative. With the world fully in view now, not only do we see patient 307's hideous face, but we also see the faces of the rest of the staff. And the stark differences between them make it very clear why she would never be able to fit in to their unified society. And she knows this better than anyone else in there. And so she makes a run for it. Sprinting down the hallway, trying to escape her ugly fate, we then see the leader up close as he proclaims about the oneness in the world that he has built. A single norm, a single entity of people. From their morality to their virtues, all shall fall under the single philosophy that their government has set up. All shall follow the rules and all shall be one and the same under them. As she charges through the hospital, we see more and more of the normal people that are within it, many of them confused and even scared as she passes by them. Trying to find a place of solitude, patient 307 keeps moving, but she's constantly confronted with all of these screens of the leader declaring that the only right way to live is to conform. Rushing through hall after hall, 307 finally passes through one last door where a man is standing in the way and causes her to stop in her tracks. Even falling back, terrified and defeated, she begins sobbing. And it's here that Dr. Bernardi finally catches up with her and tells her that she doesn't have to be afraid, because this man is only a representative of the group that she is going to have to go and live with. And she just so happened to run right to him. But the look on the doctor's face tells a slightly different story. And we can see why patient 307 was introduced to Mr. Walter Smith, because he is another one that is not like the normal people. Another one who does not and cannot fit in with this world. And he is here to escort patient 307 from this place where she cannot and does not belong. But instead, he's going to take her to a new place where she can live her new life without ever having to cover her face again. And she can finally be Miss Janet Tyler. A place where she won't only feel like she belongs, but also
you'll feel a sense of being loved.
And she will be loved. And it seems like she can already feel that as she looks at Mr. Smith. But she still asks him why. Why do they have to look like this? So different compared to the norm that is all around them in this world. Mr. Smith doesn't know. But what he does know is that it doesn't matter. Even with everything that she has done to alter her appearance so she can finally conform to be able to survive within this society, it hasn't made a difference. It mattered to her so much for so long, but now she is told something that I'm sure she wished she would have heard as a child.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
It's an old saying that still holds true, but it can't hold true for patient 307. Instead, it has to be for Miss Janet Tyler, and only if she keeps repeating it to herself as many times as it takes for her to start believing it. With a look of reassurance from Mr. Smith, he tells her to grab her things so they can set off for their new home. And with a hand outstretched, Janet takes it as they then open the door to see the staff and Dr. Bernardi blocking their path. But instead of trying to stop them, a saddened Dr. Bernardi simply looks at her and tells Miss Tyler goodbye. And as he steps aside, these two people that are considered hideous by the world around them set forth on a new journey to find truth in the old saying that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. As Miss Janet Tyler makes her way out of this prison that she has been stuck in for her entire life, we get one of the greatest closing narrations from Serling. One that has stayed with me for the last 20 years and has proven to be true time and time again.
Now the questions that come to mind.
Where is this place and when is it? What kind of world where ugliness is the norm and beauty is the deviation from that norm?
You want an answer?
The answer is, it doesn't make any difference, because the old saying happens to be true.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
In this year or 100 years hence, on this planet or wherever there is human life, perhaps amongst the stars, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Lesson to be learned in the Twilight Zone.
Now we have everything we need to answer the question of how good is this twist. And with the story of a woman who for her entire life was told that she was ugly, hideous, and wrong, even with her earliest memories being of other children screaming because of how she looks.
I just wanted people not to scream when they looked at me.
Causing her to spend so much of her time and money to try to change it, hiding from the world until the treatments will allow her to be normal. For in the end to have all of it wasted, and for there to be no change.
No change. No change at all.
But for us, we don't see what everyone else sees. We just see a woman, Miss Janet Tyler, and are shocked by her looks. How could she want to change her face to look like these people? Because for her, in this world, it's illegal for her to look this way. With her appearance, she cannot conform, and so she can't survive with the normal people. For us, it's the power of words and the opinions of others that it's so easy for us to get trapped in the same prison that patient 307 found herself trapped in for as long as she can remember. The saying is true. Beauty is and always has been in the eye of the beholder. What's considered beautiful in this world within the Twilight Zone is different from our own, but it's not wrong. What is wrong is how they handle that difference by presenting the idea that there is only one type of beauty and all who disagree are committing treason.
That hasn't the right to make ugliness a crime!
Whether we see Dr. Bernardi as ugly or Miss Janet Tyler as beautiful doesn't matter. That is only our eye becoming the beholder of their beauty. At no point should this get in the way of who they are or allow us to see deeper, to see their real face.
It's a good face. It's a human face.
These are just two people existing within a broken world where they have lost the meaning of what true beauty is and who does or doesn't decide it. This is a story and a twist that will stand and should stand the test of time and is no less perfect in its meaning. With something like this, there is only one rating that it could have: 100. And for our second category, we have acting, and how well does this actress pull off the twist? Even with Janet's face being wrapped up for the majority of the episode and everyone else wearing heavy prosthetics for the entire time, they all still did so much in this episode. You can hear the desperation in Janet's voice and even see it in just the way that she moves. And Dr. Bernardi's conflict about beauty that he has within his office is delivered so well that it makes that final scene stand out even more.
Why shouldn't people be allowed to be different? Why?
Because his words say goodbye, but his eyes tell us that he is struggling with more than just looking at Janet. But instead, he's now struggling with his beliefs that he has within the world that has been established around him. So much is conveyed with so many restrictions within this episode. This is also in part due to the amazing voice acting from Maxine Stewart, who voiced all of the lines that Janet had throughout the episode when her bandages were on. But she doesn't voice the final line after she has been unwrapped.
Why do we have to look like this?
Instead, Donna Douglas was so good at imitating Maxine's voice that she was able to say it and make it match the rest of the episode. Anytime that a wild story is told and a shocking twist like this is revealed, but you aren't taken out of the moment because how much you believe everyone in the scene, something special is happening. And this episode is definitely something special. So it's going to get a 91. And for the third category, we have predictability, and we want there to be a good balance here. Something that will let us be surprised on that first time and then appreciate it more as we go back and watch it second, third, and fourth time. With the way that the camera moves and how intentional it feels to keep everybody hidden, it comes off as more of an artistic decision than a way to just hide the twist from us. And it also allows us to be drawn in more to what is being said and how it is being said, making everything so much more impactful when the first face we see throughout the whole episode is Miss Janet Tyler. And the singular twist has two sides to it because we have the unchanged, ugly patient 307 that looks like this, and what is considered normal and what the hospital staff looks like is this. Everything within the episode is building up to this moment. From the opening scene where Janet is asking when the bandages will finally come off, to her being upset and screaming that the government isn't God.
The state is not God.
Even to Dr. Bernardi questioning the idea of beauty and to the point that he is teetering on treason, and onto the leader's boisterous speech about glorious conformity, and finally coming to the slow unveiling of patient 307 or Miss Janet Tyler, depending on whether or not the treatments worked. A single moment in the episode that will determine if she will be seen as one of them and is able to be called by her name, or if she will be seen as something less and remain as just the patient in room 307.
If it were mine, I'd bury myself in a grave someplace.
And it's a very powerful moment that I cannot think of another way that you would be able to improve on it. By keeping everyone out of view, we actually listen to what they're saying and ask the same questions that the doctor does in the office.
Why shouldn't people be allowed to be different? Why?
And it all results in the shocking twist that I appreciate even more now with how well it's able to deliver its message.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
It is predictable in the fact that we don't see anybody else's face for the whole episode, but you do not expect her to look like this. So whether it's viewed as flaws within the episode or as being cinematic to deliver its message, I have to give this one an 83. And I have found that this is the hardest category for me to judge, so if you disagree or if you can think of a way that you would be able to make this twist better, let me know. And for our fourth category, we have satisfaction, which is how satisfying and memorable is this twist for us. And there's a reason that this is the highest rated episode on IMDb for the Twilight Zone.
I want to be like everybody.
Because it has everything you could want, a twist that makes you rethink the entire episode, a weird world with a leader that is also supposed to mimic a very specific leader from the 30s and 40s, as well as the full character arc of Miss Janet Tyler as she goes from hating how she looks to realizing that she can be loved just the way she is.
You'll feel a sense of being loved.
and even a lesson learned from Serling within the Twilight Zone. The episode is satisfying in every way and is even one of the most memorable scenes from television that I've ever seen, making this one of the easiest ratings that I've given in this category because it's getting a 100. And for the final category, we have the Poltergeiger, which is the most important because it's just my opinion. I mentioned in the very first episode of this series that there were moments within the Twilight Zone that changed the way I view the world, and this is one of those episodes. Because I would guess that all of us at some point have felt ugly.
Ever since I was a little girl, people have turned away when they looked at me.
Whether it was because of what somebody said to us, or if it's just that the idea of beauty that was presented to us was just so far out of our grasp. It doesn't take much for the idea to stick that we are ugly, undesirable, unable to fit in, and unworthy of love. And we can even have our own loved ones in our life telling us that that's not true, that we are worthy of love, but that idea that somebody placed in there will not let us go like a terrible, ugly parasite.
It's pretty bad, isn't it? Oh, I know it's pretty bad.
And it's in moments like that that we have to do what Mr. Smith told Miss Janet Tyler and just keep repeating to ourselves until we believe it, that beauty really is in the eye of the beholder. And at some point, the truth of that statement will finally start to sink in. And you'll start to realize that it's those you surround yourself with that determine your beauty. And more importantly, that you are beautiful to someone. Ever since I first watched this episode, my idea of beauty changed. People all over the world are different and beautiful in their own way, and whether or not I see them as such doesn't matter, because someone else out there will see them as beautiful, and it's exactly that makes them beautiful. Beauty is more than skin deep, and it's this ever-changing lens that each one of us look through to see a different world. There's no point in trying to alter our own appearance to fit the idea of beauty that someone else has because they say it is the only one. Instead, it is much better to understand the truth within the old saying, and that I am and you are beautiful in the eyes of another beholder. This is a lesson I learned when I was young and have never forgotten it. For this reason and many others, I have to give Eye of the Beholder another 100. Bringing the total of this episode out to a 94.8 out of 100, and also landing it in the first place, making this the greatest twist in all of horror so far. But even with this being the new number one, there are still so many more twists out there that we need to look at. Or else we may never know what is really the greatest twist in all of horror. As many of you put it, when we finally crossed 100,000 subscribers, this is only the beginning. And I can't begin to thank y'all enough for that 100,000. I guess I'm gonna have to figure out where to put a silver play button, which I never expected to have to figure out where to put one, because that's just insane. I'm thinking I'll be able to move that Superman poster and put it right there, but it'll probably be a little bit before it comes in, so just keep an eye out for it in the future videos. When you see it there, be like, hey, you did it! And I really hope that you thought this was special enough for the 100K special, because I never thought that I would have to borrow my wife's scrubs or have her apply makeup to make a mask look even better than what it does. That means all of you need to go right to the comments and say, thank you, Miss Poulter, for making this even more special. And of course, somebody else that made this extra special was the company that made this mask, its horror business mask, on Etsy. And I also had a really good time chatting with the guy that makes all of these masks, and even found out that not only does he make these, but he also does a lot of work within the movie industry. And this is not an ad or anything. I just genuinely thought this mask was awesome, and so I've got all of his stuff linked down in the description in case you also want to go buy one. And we can finally have a bunch of normal people walking around. But in all seriousness, I thank you so much for subscribing and getting the channel to over 100,000 subscribers now. Because I know many people are like, you know, that's pretty cool, you hit 100,000, but I don't think you realize just how few channels even cross this point. And for y'all to decide that this channel is good enough to achieve that goal, there's no way I could ever thank you enough other than putting out more content. And so from the bottom of my heart, I thank you so much for changing my life. And of course, I not only thank you, but I have to thank all of the channel members for directly supporting me in this journey. From Zod the Immortal, Philagond, and Eddie Belial, I hope I said that right, to Bladder Control, Soul, and Brianna the Bruce Almighty, I seriously thank you all for being here. And again, I thank you for watching this video, especially all the way to the end, and I hope that you never forget that beauty really is in the eye of the beholder and that you are beautiful. So take my hand, have an extra blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one.